Welcome back to Tech Ascent, the show where we dive into the trends, strategies, and success stories that are reshaping the tech landscape as we know it today. I'm your host, Oliver Clingain. I'm also the founder of Ascension, the premier business development partner within tech. Today, we've got a great guest joining us, joined by Haider Nazar, the co-founder and CEO of MAHA Global. Haider, welcome to the show.
Thanks, Oliver. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure to have you on. Would you mind just kicking us off, telling us a little bit about yourself and what you guys do at MAHA Global?
Yeah. I am a enterprise software and management consulting kind of background guy here in the San Francisco Bay Area. We started this company, MAHA Global, about 6 years ago. It's a responsible AI company and we focus really on helping large organizations identify reputational risk as well as take advantage of reputational opportunity. And we've done this work for companies like Amgen and Levi Strauss and Medtronic, large corporations, and in this world where there's increasing pressure on building trust with stakeholders, and there's increasing doubt around who to trust. We're seeing some really interesting things happen in our market, and our clients are continuing to look for ways to build more trust with their key stakeholders.
Very cool, very cool. And yeah, I'm sure there's tons of development on that side, but we can rewind the clock a little bit before we dive into that. 6 years ago, when you're looking to kick off this company, what did you see that made you want to get started?
Oliver, my background, like I said, is I've worked in, early stage growth, venture technology for over 2 decades now. And so I'm always looking for gaps in the market, in the enterprise market. But this company was born out of I was helping companies and advising senior leadership on strategies that would help their board um, create more sustainable plans that would build more trust with their stakeholders. And what I saw in this pattern over and over again was and CEOs and leadership teams were trying to work to build more trust. At the time, employees was a big deal, and building more trust. And during the Great Resignation, which seems like a long time ago, but in that world, what I was seeing over and over again was this pattern that even if companies wanted to move towards specific goals that served, whether it was their employees, their investors, or their customers, they were struggling with how to find the signals that would help them really execute on those goals. And like with in anything in business, you can't manage it if you can't measure it. And so we saw the opportunity to create a tech platform that provided the measurement capabilities, so that enterprises could really look and see how they were doing internally, how they were doing against their market, and what moves they could make that would drive that trust to their stakeholders.
Super interesting. And over the last 6 years, Hyder, has obviously been a lot of changes in the landscape, socially, economically, technologically, a lot of different shifts. How has that kind of impacted your market? Is it easier to
Yeah.
grow? Is it more challenging to operate? What kind of shifts have you seen and what are the impacts?
Well, 5 years ago, I don't know if you're aware, the CEO roundtable, made a commit where there was over 200, you know, public CEOs made a commitment to being more purposeful as their organizations. And BlackRock made a big commitment to, purpose was kind of the center of the focus of what everyone should go do, and there was a lot of groundswell and support for that. And now, 5 years later, ESG is a bad word, and uh, uh, people are being accused, leaders are being accused of being woke. Everyone's terrified to speak out on any social or environmental issue. So it's been a big pendulum shift. Um, However, what's interesting is that brands are still, recognized for their values, and consumers and employees and investors and the media still have certain expectations of certain brands. And so even though I think that, the desire to speak out on any social and environmental issue has gone down dramatically. What hasn't changed is that um, speaking out authentically around areas where your products or services can provide a societal benefit is even more valued. And so I think it's honed in on authenticity. And it's honed in on don't just talk about it, but what are you actually doing about it? And so, and an interesting example of that is, recently there's been a lot of pushback on DEI, and a lot of companies have gotten rid of their DEI programs. Our data, though, shows interestingly that, companies that weren't performing well on DEI and killed their DEI programs really had no impact to their reputation. And in fact, in some instances, there was a lift in reputation because their stakeholders were like, well, they weren't doing anything about it. So it's actually more authentic for them to kill it. But there are other companies that were doing great on their DEI programs and 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 canceled those programs, like Target as an example. And that was really that they took a hit because their stakeholders saw that and believed, and actually there was a brand identity associated with being an inclusive place to work, and an inclusive place for their supply chain, and the products that they sold. And so it's a great example of how you can actually um, if you cancel something that is authentic to what you do, it can create reputational risk for you also. So, taking the herd mentality on this stuff is dangerous, and it's really about um, doing what you say and staying true to that.
Yeah, for sure. And Hyder, being in a noisy tech space, how do you go about kind of educating prospects, educating consumers about the value proposition of Maha Global when it comes to things like that?
Yeah, so reputation, the reputation industry, and the trust industry, which are very connected, Oliver, they've been around for a long time, for decades. Historically, the work was done by agencies, and then by polling companies, and then over the last decade, there's been several media monitoring companies that look at social and news media and provide signals off of that. I think what so that's the landscape that we walked into. But I think what we've found, and where we've carved out kind of a nice differentiation and unique selling proposition is that because of what I said earlier about stakeholders increasingly uh, trust companies that do what they say versus say what they do. A lot of the think and feel data is captured by polling or market research. But what's been lacking is the behavior data. And so we track almost 13,000 companies globally that are public. We track their public disclosures, so we know, employee pay ratios. We know all sorts of ethic and leadership activity. We know about their environmental footprint. We know about their philanthropy. So all, hundreds of different factors we're able to bring into our models to be able to help companies understand what's most differentiating in their industry, and also where there's a financial impact to taking action or not, or speaking out or not. And that's based upon bringing in both disclosure data and financial data, which is kind of a new lens to look at reputation with, and obviously AI helps with that, and advanced LLM models, and so that's what's unique about us in this space.
Nice. And as you're tracking these 13,000 companies, Hyder, is there one thing that you see a lot of them making mistakes on, one area that you think you could maybe shed some light on that they might not be aware about?
Oliver, every industry is very different. What's differentiating in pharmaceutical versus automotive versus CPG is very different. And so I don't know if there's a silver bullet. But I think that what we find over and over again is that reputation teams are historically they're looking for metrics like share of voice or media mentions, and I think that is, you know 10, 15 years ago, those were metrics that maybe made a big difference. But I think today what we're seeing is that when you look at reputation risk and you look at where you're perceived higher than you're actually behaving, those risks, like that, creates an opportunity for reputation teams to take this information not just into the PR room, but into the boardroom, and really have more strategic conversations about their strategic planning, where they should be prioritizing resources to build more capabilities. So I don't think there's a silver bullet answer, but I
Mhm.
think I think the analysis is now the data that's out there provides deeper analytics that allows people to make better business decisions than was out there, even 5, 6, 7, 8 years ago.
Mhm. No doubt. And Hyder, when it comes to making good business decisions, you're obviously an entrepreneur within a tech space, within a growing industry. What do you think are some of the throughout the past 6 years? Would you say some of the biggest lessons you've learned while trying to grow a business?
Well, I think that my consulting background has always guided me on the principle that technology doesn't drive business, business drives your tech. And I think, you always get in trouble when you're selling a better shiny object, and I think in this world of AI, especially, everyone's AI, and yet, what are the real use cases? And where I think the lesson that we have um, learned is that, providing valuable insights isn't enough. It's really as companies look to transform their insights led capabilities around reputation. It's also about how do you take that information, and how do you take that data, and how do you drive real change in the organization with it? Because what we're talking about is really permeates reputation is something that permeates across the organization. It's not just one area. And so I think that for us, the learning has been about how do you create more of a complete solution. And some of that complete solution, like, we're a SaaS platform, we deliver that. We do have a small professional services team, but I think what we've started leaning into more is partnering with other services companies, so that whole solution can be delivered, so that clients can really move towards that transformation. Because it's one thing to know what to do, but it's another thing to have the muscle to actually then drive that change.
Mhm.
And so I think that's the big lesson for us, which is providing that integrated solution with a set of agency partners that are trained on our platform and are delivering that to our joint market.
Yeah, I appreciate you sharing that, Hyder. And looking forward now, what's the goals? What's the mission? What's the vision right now for Maha Global?
Well, I think that, in addition to just growth, because every company wants to grow, I think for us, it's we are seeing that in order to really serve markets, first, there's a lot of proprietary data and a lot of proprietary uh, um, uh, expertise, industry to industry. And so we're going to be rolling out some very specific industry solutions here shortly, which I think is an area that we've focused on quite a bit. So I think that that's one area. The other is that we're going to be rolling out more, agents that handle and automate specific workflow for the reputation teams within those industries. And I think the other focus for us is to continue building technology that can support our agency partners. Their needs are a little bit different than just the corporations direct, and so we have a core group of partners we're working with that's expanding, but really continuing to invest in the product to support that second user, which is the industry partner that gets us more distribution.
Very cool. I'm looking forward to seeing all that roll out then.
Yeah,
And Haider, I got one last question for you
sure.
before we wrap up. If you could leave the audience with one message, whether it be about general personal life advice, be about reputation management, if you could leave them with one message, one piece of advice, what would that one thing be?
Well, I think that, in a world um, where a lot of people are getting accused, a lot of companies are getting accused of being woke or not speaking out on certain things. I think that the opposite of that is a company that ends up really just being focused on growth. And I think most customers don't see that as a great look, if that's all that the company is focused on. So I think what I would leave the audience with is um, one of the ways that we've seen in our data across industry is one of the ways that companies are growing and differentiating um, the most effectively is by being very authentic about their values and actually what they believe in. And so I think now is the time for companies to really lean in and for leaders to lean in even more into what does their company actually stand for and make sure that they integrate that into their messaging and integrate that into their strategic planning um, because I think that there's a moment here to really for certain brands to actually differentiate and grow even faster if they take that authentic approach.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't have the data that you have to back it up. I think there's no better strategy than just being true to who you guys are as a brand, who you guys are, and the mission you're on.
Yeah.
Very cool. Well, Hyder, that is all I've got for you today. I really appreciate you coming on the show, sharing your insights, what you're seeing in the market, where you guys are going. And I know the audience appreciates it as well. So thank you.
Thanks, Oliver. Appreciate it.
For sure. And for everybody tuning in, I'll be sure to tag Hyder's LinkedIn down in the description. I'll be sure to tag MAHA Global's website down in the description if you want to go check them out. But Hyder, is there anywhere else people can go check you out on?
Yeah, I mean, LinkedIn put a lot of content out on LinkedIn, both on the Maha Global page and mine, and look forward to seeing you there.
Yeah, perfect. I'll tag it all down in the description. And thank you for everybody tuning in. Thank you for your time. Hyder, thank you for coming on the show.
Thank you.